Okay, we are on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Jim
Oh,
does.
and Jim Gully has a flag.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Gully. Thank you for joining us this evening, everyone. I call this finance meeting strictly to discuss what many folks might have heard through social media and other avenues, the issue of the Mohawk Humane Society. They had sent a contract, long story short, it expired. We were able to get a per diem, which was negotiated by our corp counsel. We brought our animals on a per diem basis, which was great until I believe March. At that time, they did give us another extension, and now I believe, we're here to get an update, number one. Number two, more importantly, some communication lapses happen. That's not what we're here to talk about. We will address that on a separate occasion. That's not what this is about. This is about moving forward. This is about figuring out what do we do about the Mohawk Hudson proposal? Can we find a couple smaller shelters to partner with, do per diem type of arrangement? And my concern, a couple quick things. Ag and markets, I know per law, we do need to have an appropriate place with appropriate services for the animals to shelter. So that's key. We need to ensure that we're abiding by state law. And then more importantly, we need to ensure that our public is safe and that the animals obviously have somewhere to go. A couple folks raised a couple issues, the police. Couple folks on the police force raised the issues if there's a huge raid or something and there's an abundance of animals, that could be a huge concern. Our animal control officer has also raised that concern. So there's just a number of issues we need to talk about. Saying that though, as I said, this is about moving forward. This is about figuring out how can we partner with a shelter. Mohawk Hudson Humane has told the council they'd be happy to meet with a couple of council members next week. The CEO is here this week, but her right hand is not. So they did say they'd be happy to meet with us next week. We know that their proposals are exorbitant amounts of money. Certainly other municipalities on top of it have also raised concerns, but they all have decided to renew contracts in some fashion with Mohawk Hudson. So the mayor's with us, Monica's with us. We'll do a quick roll call. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, quick roll call, and then we'll get an update from the mayor, from Monica. And Monica, you think you could join us by video or? Hello?
When I'm called on, I will.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll take it from there. We'll figure this out together and figure out next steps. And as I said, Mohawk Hudson wants to meet next week. So a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll be able to dissect through all this tonight. Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Gully, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Gully, and we'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully.
I am still here.
Awesome. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Present.
Councilmember Steele.
Present.
Councilmember Cummings. I think your sound is off, Councilmember.
Is that better?
Perfect. Yeah, I don't mind. I just wanted to make sure you had it for, I know, future.
Yeah.
Yep. Councilmember Zaluski.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
And Council President Mantello, I'm here, all 7 present. We have the mayor with us, as I mentioned earlier, and the deputy mayor, Monica Kuziewski, is with us. And I do understand that Rick Morrissey, our corporation counsel, will be joining us at some point. So I think first and foremost, how about we get an update, find out where we are we partnering with anyone right now? And then we can talk about options and talk about the Mohawk Humane. And I see the mayor has turned his volume mute off. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for joining us.
So you're right. At this time, we do not have a contract with Mohawk Hudson Humane Society. We could not come to terms with them on a price that I thought was fair to the taxpayers of the city. From time to time, as we negotiate contracts with vendors and prospective vendors, this does happen. And then we seek out alternatives. We did have a temporary alternative, but for some reason, yesterday they backed out. So we're now in the process of looking at alternatives. Alternatives could be a wide range of things, another shelter, kennels, or it could be us doing our own kenneling going forward. So that's where we stand at this point in time. We are talking to prospects, and as soon as we have something to share, we will do that.
Okay, I'll open it up. I know some council members probably have a question or two.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
I know that Mohawk Hudson had just had a changeover in leadership with a new CEO, I believe, or an executive director, new executive director. And I know that the contrast of the contract jumped quite a bit from last year to this year.
Council member, I am very, very sorry. Regarding public comment, I apologize. Because there is no legislation on the agenda and it's pure discussion amongst the council, our city clerk did send an email out to the few folks who did sign up. There was miscommunication when they did sign up. There is no public forum at this meeting. It's purely a discussion at the council. There's no legislation. There's nothing to be acted on. But I do encourage folks to please send your comments to the city clerk. And we will, Mara, I believe it's cityclerk@troyny.gov.
Yeah, if they want to send it to me, it can go to cityclerk, all one word, @troyny.gov. Or if they send it to city council, also all one word, @troyny.gov, that will be forwarded to the entire council.
Perfect, thank you. So,
and of course, if I receive it, I will forward it as well.
Thank you. Yep, and we'll forward it also to the mayor, the deputy mayor, but this is strictly a discussion. As I said, no votes, no nothing. I apologize. Councilmember Gully.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, I know that, we have seen the prices in the past on this program that we have from Mohawk Hudson, and even as back far as 2016-17, we thought that the price jumped up a little bit there, but this seems to be a large escalation. Was there anything in the contract that would validate that type of a jump in expense to the citizens of Troy?
Well, so a little bit of background information. The contract, it runs on a calendar year basis, and it is renewable by the parties at their discretion at the end of each year. When I came into office, I believe the contract was for $60,000 or thereabouts. A few years in, it went up to where it was last year at $66,000. The contract that was presented to us for 2021 jumped to, Monica can correct me if I'm way off base, but I think it was 90 some odd $1,000 with increases over the next 4 years, taking us up to 230 some $1,000. When I came in, I did speak with the then director of the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society, who indicated to me that this was not a line of business they wanted to continue doing. I don't know if the current leadership shares that philosophy or not, but that was a direction they were going in at that time. I don't know if the price increase is a statement about whether they want to continue working with us or not, but it was a pretty significant increase. At the end of 21, we did ask if we could go on a per diem basis with them. That was, it could have been risky for us, but we didn't at that time have an alternative. So we did do a per diem basis for the first quarter of the year. I don't have March's numbers, but January and February averaged about $3,000 a month. So if you annualize that, you're looking at about $36,000 a year. Say you're off by 50%, you're maybe looking at $48,000 a year. So we're a good ways off in what we think is fair to the taxpayers in the city of Troy.
So, Mr. Mayor, that being said, what alternatives have we exercised? I mean, how far are we willing to go? Because we have one animal control officer that has to drive to and bring these animals, these picked up animals to a place. How far range are we looking to go? Because I mean, for that kind of money, we could probably drive quite a ways to bring a dog to a shelter to get protected or someplace and still come out ahead if we do that. Are there other options that are around us? And I'm not talking just around us here in the Capital District area, but even as close as maybe like on the Vermont border. I know there's one up there. Have we looked at those options? And are we looking at those?
Yeah, we're looking at all options right now, and I can't say that we're looking only within X number of miles. It's going to be what makes sense for us. If you have kennels or dog pounds that you're aware of that you think we should check out, you can forward us that information and we'll put it on the list.
Councilmember Gully, I have a question for the council. I guess for us, we need to decide, do we want, the mayor negotiating? Obviously, this always has been under the clerk in terms of with the corporation council figuring out. Mayor, and believe me, I don't care who negotiates it. We just can't sit on this for too long. That's my only concern. So as we talk this through, I'm just concerned, that we go not just days, but weeks and without a vendor. And so, some type of timeline and, I'm here to ensure that we together try to figure out, the next moves. But I mean, the big thing is if the council and, the mayor and folks, obviously the council has the final say. If the Mohawk Hudson, their proposal is, just outrageous, we obviously need to really start looking at other shelters. So, I'm kind of saying a two-pronged approach in terms of moving forward. We need a game plan.
So I can assure you nobody is sitting on this. We're spending an inordinate amount of time on this topic, and we're chasing down leads as we speak. So nobody's sitting on it. Time frame is difficult to predict because I can't tell you if any of the people we've spoken to are going to respond in the affirmative or how long it might take to go through their process. But I can assure you that we're not dilly-dallying over this. We're working it every day.
Okay.
Council President?
1 sec, I apologize. I did interrupt Councilmember Gully. Do you have anything else? And then we'll go to Councilmember Ashman McPherson.
If I had something else, I probably forgot it by now, but if I think of it, I'll let you know. Oh, I did want to say one thing though. I would like at some point a little later in the discussion I think Councilman Zaluski brought up a very good point. And then some people that I talked to also mentioned that there might be some stipulations for approval of processing for foster homes. But the more I thought about it that night, I thought that was genuinely a great option if we could, because we have so many animal lovers in the area. But then there's some concerns there. I mean, and I don't know how to weigh those things out. After all, I'm not a vet or an animal control officer. But I would like to know what options we have there. And I think there was value in what Councilman Zaluski mentioned. And the other thing is, I'd like Councilman Cummings said not getting into specifics of numbers, but technically you did a great little analysis on what you tried to derive out of the spreadsheet, and maybe you could give us a brief on, how you feel and what you found and what you think on it, because I know you analyze things pretty well.
Sure.
Yep. So, Mayor, I think on the question that Council Member Gully, and then we'll get to Council Member Ash McPherson, that was a really good question. What is the protocol for shelter? Because obviously, I believe the state has to go and inspect the proposed shelter. So maybe if you could fill us in, or Rick or Monica, I know that there's certain requirements of a proposed shelter, foster home, etc.
Yes, I do know that there are some minimal requirements that must be met. I can't sit here and recite them, but I do know that there are requirements that must be met. And, that's part of our consideration as we speak to prospective vendors.
Yeah. So I think the foster home idea, I love it. I absolutely love it, but I think that potentially could be a hurdle. But Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Thank you. Mayor, I have several questions. Hold on one second, pull them back up. So I'm going to start off with the first one. Where are the dogs going right now that get picked up?
We haven't had any picked up in several days.
Okay, is that unusual?
I can't say if it is or it isn't. Some months we have more pickups than others. We've been lucky so far.
So do we have a vet in line if a dog is going to get picked up? Do we have where are we going to take them? What vet are we going to use?
I don't, we can speak to the vet we use for our canines if we need a vet on an emergency basis. We could probably, like any other person, go to a kennel and have the kennel host the dog for us. We would need a long-term plan, but there are kennels with availability.
Mara, which vet do we use?
We have relationships with the Capital District. It's got a long name: Capital District Vet Referral Hospital, Latham Animal Hospital, and I think one other. But those are we do have existing relationships with vets for animals that do need medical care. So that is already in place.
Thank you.
And actually, just to clarify, Mohawk Hudson does not provide medical care. So if we had a dog that was injured or an animal that was injured or needed something more than just kind of a checkup and rabies, they actually would not accept it. We would have to take that to the vet first, stabilize the animal, and then transfer it.
Thank you, Mara.
At this point, would the Mohawk Hudson be willing to do another extension or a temporary extension till we find something?
We have asked that and they have declined.
They've declined.
Although they have given that to Water Elite and Cohoes.
And I could jump in. I did speak to Ashley, Councilmember Ash McPherson, as recent as 2 days ago. She did say, without committing either way, etc., that next Monday, as soon as her right hand gets back from vacation, she would be willing to talk to us. Whether that, as the mayor stated, they're not going to go permanent per diem. That's out.
Council, but that's not what I'm asking.
Yeah, but an extension at this point.
If it's a possibility, if we're able to get an extension while we're working on trying to find someplace for these animals. I'm very uncomfortable with the dollar amount that they're coming up with to put on the taxpayers. I understand this is a very serious situation, but you're going from 100% increase plus, and you know, we can't keep on slamming our taxpayers like this. So I'm just trying to see if there's any extension that they give us to give us time to put this in place to we find a place to do this, because a lot of people don't like kennels. A lot of people, you have to follow the AG and the so forth rules, which I'm learning all them right now. So my biggest concern is if we get a phone call and our warden has to go and pick up animals, where are they going to go with them? That's my big concern right now.
Yeah, so again, we did approach the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society for an extension, and they declined. And you know, it was just a flat out denial. There was no explanation given. So if we pick somebody up now, we'll be calling around to kennels to try to place the dogs.
And in order to call around to these other kennels, do we have to, from my understanding, the kennel that we had in place temporarily, the AGs contact them, they have to go and inspect the property, and we would have to have a contract with them as well?
That I would, you know, I'd have to look at the law to ensure that that's true. Could be.
It doesn't matter because they backed out anyway.
But I'm just saying, any new kennel, any further one.
Right.
I mean, we got to figure out something. And that's my concern, is I got a lot of people calling me, asking me where these dogs are going to go, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like none of us know where they're going to go. So.
And, you know, the police mentioned if there's a raid, obviously with a number of animals, sometimes the raids produce a number of dogs, you know, that could potentially be a problem. And I guess, you know, on your note, Councilmember Ash McPherson, what if somebody gets bit? You know, I'm hoping we're not liable from a stray dog, I'm saying. So, you know, we need a contract in place, in my opinion, soon. Councilmember, do you have any other questions? And we can.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, but it seems like I'm going around the same circle. There's no answer, because there's no place for, no idea where these dogs are going to go. And I'm not being mean or anything when I say there doesn't seem to be any urgency. And I know it's not going to get, I mean, this has been going on and we're just getting to it. There's things got to be in play. There's something that's got to be set up, because we have to protect the city from being sued. From what I was reading on, the AGs could start fining us. I don't know if it's 20,000 a month or just 20,000 period. I don't know. So, I mean, I'm looking for answers. So.
Yeah, we all are. And
well, it's an unfair characterization to suggest that nothing is going on. We are working on this, as I've indicated before. We are making calls. We are making contact. We are trying to find a solution. We are well aware that we don't have a solution in place. We are well aware of the risks of that. The alternative is to sign on to a contract that is not in the best interest of the taxpayers of the city. I take my responsibility to the taxpayers seriously, as do you. And so we are working to find a responsible alternative.
And just for the public, when Councilmember Ash McPherson states AG, it's not the Attorney General, it's Ag and Markets, just to clarify that.
Council President?
Yep, Councilmember, I do believe Councilmember Cummings kind of summoned, but we'll go to Councilmember Zaluski, and then maybe Councilmember Cummings can go through his really awesome analysis, which I can imagine took hours. Thank you. Councilmember Zaluski.
Yeah, a follow-up question on that. Mayor Madden, do we have any information on what other municipalities are doing? Which ones are using Mohawk Hudson? which ones were using Mohawk Hudson and have since said, you know what, these increases are unacceptable, we're going elsewhere. And for those that are going elsewhere, what are they doing? And is it possible to collaborate with other municipalities to come up with a solution?
So it probably would not be appropriate for me to comment on future plans of other municipalities. I would let them speak to that. What I do know, though, is that both, or what I understand is that both Cohoes and Waterville do have per diem per dog contracts with Mohawk Hudson at this time. And they are relatively recent. I do know that Albany has a flat fee, which represented a pretty significant increase, but they apparently were able to negotiate it to a number lower than they had been offered by Hudson Mohawk. We were not given that option. And I know other communities are very interested in a shared service arrangement if we need to go that route.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, to follow that up with a comment, and I know Anasha, Councilman Cummings is going to have the full analysis, but to me, it looks like we bring in on average about 200 animals a year. And if you don't include 2018, where we had those 90 animals from the hoarding case, we probably average about 170, between 170 and 180 a year. So, we're asking taxpayers effectively to front the cost of what amounts to about, right now, $300 per animal that we bring in. And if we were to go with this new contract, it's $500 for each animal. It's outrageous to me. And Anasha, you'll give us some more details on that. But I think I'm happy to see that the administration is pushing back on this. I have a friend of mine that's a volunteer at Mohawk Hudson, and I'm waiting for a call back from him. I'm going to talk through the issue with him a little bit. And I have talked with a previous administrator at Mohawk Hudson who feels that this is a very, very steep increase and that we might want to consider collaborating with other municipalities on some type of whether it's a shelter, a kennel, or whatever. So I think we do have to exercise options. Mayor, I appreciate the fact that you're doing that, and we'll see where this goes.
And maybe before we get to Councilmember Cummings, I did speak to Rick Morrissey about that figure of 200 and something. Is that an accurate figure, Rick?
Okay. The 230,000 is a figure. They want about $250,000 in the 5th year of the contract. So it increases every year. The increase for this
I
year,
meant the animals. Sorry. Remember you had told me that figure of taking in the animals.
Oh, we have not been able to figure out where they get their numbers from. I think they have a total of 480 animals or something like that. The previous director said that we brought in about 160 animals per year, which is what approximately what Councilman Zalewski said. And I think that's about right on average. And I should also inform the council, under the law, we're not even required to do anything for cats. We do, and I think we should. But the Ag and Markets law only pertains to dogs.
Okay. Councilmember Cummings. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
So yeah, we went back and forth a bunch on the numbers. I think the core issue is the issue that the Corporation Council just pointed to, which is the dispute as to the number of animals that we're responsible to. It seems from our analysis, obviously it's true, we really have no idea where that total number of intakes that they're claiming, that they're attributing to Troy comes from, but from our back and forth, it seems like somehow any animal that comes through the door, they're attributing it to one of the municipalities in the region, which goes well beyond, I think, what our responsibility under Ag and Markets law is to make sure that we have a dog or an animal patrol officer that is able to bring in dogs that are stray, etc. I guess the first question would be for Rick. Do you know, are there any, or have you discovered any regulations in ag and markets law requiring us to, if we were to have our own kennel or our own pound situation, would we be responsible to accept any dog that a random resident brings in, or just the ones that our animal patrol officer finds and brings in, or is called to and brings in?
I don't know the answer to that. I kind of think we would accept anything from Troy, though, even if it was just a matter of policy.
Sure. And then so the difficulty with what's going on right now at Mohawk Hudson, it sounds like, I guess I'm not clear on what sort of sources of animal clients they have besides animal patrol officers and then residents of the area bringing dogs in. As it stood for years, essentially, I think what they were doing was billing municipalities for the animals that they bring in, but then doing significant fundraising and grant writing and others to fund their operations, accepting any dog that anyone wanted to bring in. So I don't know, for example, what would happen if we were to have our own contract somewhere else for our dogs. My sense is that the Mohawk Hudson wants to continue to serve the capital region, and I don't know that they would then sort of deny any service to Troy residents. Certainly, I'm sure they get significant donations from Troy residents for that service that residents in Troy appreciate. So,
Councilman Cummings?
Yeah.
I have tried, but so far I've been unable to obtain a copy of Mohawk Hudson's charter. And so I do not know what their obligations are under their charter as far as accepting dogs that are brought in as strays from whatever location.
Okay.
But
I will say, sort of philosophically, if their goal with these new contracts with municipalities is to get municipalities to pay for every animal that's brought in from each municipality in the region, and pay the full cost of that, which is what they're costing out in this contract. I don't know what they're planning to do with everything that residents donate and bring into their system, right? Are they expanding services, or are they just I guess that's a discussion for to have with them, and I guess they weren't able to come today. So there's not a lot more to say today besides that it seems like the core dispute is are we working with them on housing the 160, 170 animals per year that we bring in, or are we going well beyond, certainly the services that they're offering to do for us are well beyond our requirements under ag and markets law. And I think that's part of the difference in terms of what we can justify paying for our residents to meet the requirements of law, and what they're asking to do, genuinely to provide a lot of other services to our residents. But again, I think the historic goal of a humane society was that animal lovers could contribute to those costs by contributing to a humane society in the region, and that would enable significantly better treatment than in what is required under law. It would allow for animals to stay in the pound significantly longer and get better care than what might be possible under a pure taxpayer-funded system. So I like the idea of a partnership, but it has to be a partnership that enables Troy residents who feel strongly about animal welfare and who love their animals to help cover those costs through their donations to the system.
Yep. I think you hit the nail. And, we had talked about, maybe if we could find short-term, long-term, and potentially long-term, short-term, if we could partner with a couple kennels, on a per diem basis, that would be awesome. I don't know if that's doable, and potentially that could be an option short term, and then long term potentially partner with a couple municipalities and or the county, and try to create more of a regional, not regional, but municipal type of facility that would be a partnership between a couple of communities and or the county and us. But that's long term, and I'm just looking to ensure that we have obviously a short term solution here. So,
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
Mr. Mayor, quick question. Have we offered a counter offer on that contract for this year only?
I would have to defer to Rick or Monica on that. I know they had more of the detailed discussions. I think we did counter offer to go on a per diem, per dog basis, which was a rate that they established, which we assumed covered their costs, but they rejected that.
Councilman Gully, the city has never, there has never been a one-year offer from other than, other than the 100,000, the most recent one. The original offer was for, and I think this one is 5 years. So increasing to $250,000.
Yeah.
So my idea would be to consider a counter offer for a one-year contract at a realistic rate that might be between their number and the number that we paid, so we could have some we could have a little bit of comfortability for the residents and people to try for the next year, and then we work on our own program over the next year. And I know some ideas have been discussed. I won't talk about them here, but I just think that we're thinking in the right pattern that way, and we can talk about those later. But I think that even if we can't do anything that's generally going to help us quickly, I'm not even, I have to be honest, I'm a dog lover too, but I'm not really concerned quickly because it doesn't happen every day. So I'm hoping that we can just get through this and we can find those options. Because I was looking, there's got to be 10 or 12 kennels and places that we can just call, but who knows where that'll lead us. But my thought is, if we can try to get down to a number that makes sense, or if we can't find a place in a quick period of time, it might make sense to just send a counteroffer that kind of seems down that number to where we're comfortable for this year, and then we move on to other plans.
Councilman Gully, your idea has been discussed as recently as this afternoon. So there are several options. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can, Rick.
Oh, okay.
For us, yes.
So, I mean, there are a number of options. That is certainly one of them that we're looking at.
Okay.
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Zaluski.
I'm going to ask a question regarding average length of stay for animals, if we have any information on that. And I'm going to explain why I'm asking that. My idea on fostering comes from just minimal experience, talking to my friend who's a volunteer at Mohawk Hudson, and how it appears many of the animals that are brought in are they're lost. They run out of the yard or whatever. We pick them up. They're brought in. We want to reunite them as quickly as possible, so that the length of stay at the shelter should be relatively short. And therefore, if that's the majority of the animals that we're bringing in, maybe a fostering program of some sort would make sense. Long-term fostering, I understand, is different. There are people that are cut out to do that. I'm probably not one of them, but in terms of do we understand the length of stay for most of the animals that are brought in? Do we have some information on that?
The spreadsheet that Mohawk Hudson sent us had an average, stating that the average seized cat, which is sometimes on a hold by the court, but then eventually can get adopted out, is 27 days. The average stray cat is 31 days. The average seized dog is 27 days, and the average stray dog is 24 days. I don't know where those numbers come from. Again, if you looked at our per diem contract, they were charging us for up to 5 days typically on the last couple months. I know that's the amount of time that we're responsible under ag and markets law. And so I don't know, seems like they're proposing to continue to charge us well beyond that responsibility period. But yeah.
I'd like to see the backup on that. I'd like to see the backup on that because to me, those numbers are dubious. I'm throwing it out there. I just think most of the animals that are brought in, I know Kevin McDonough can certainly comment on that, but I understand that there are people that want to get rid of their, like they want to dump their animals. That's a tragedy. Sometimes it's because of allergies or a legitimate cause, and sometimes, whatever, people are just, some people are mean. But I feel like at least what I see on our neighborhood group, it's, an animal gets out. We have one going on right now in the Stowe Hill area. I think Eileen is aware of this, right? So in the Stowe neighborhood, and it ends up getting cross-posted on our East Side group. They post lots of pictures of their animal. They want to get the dog back. It got out of the yard, and we all work together as a neighborhood to try and track down the animal and bring the animal back to their owner. Like, to me, that seems like the common case. I could be completely wrong. It just that's been my experience. So if anyone has more information on that, but if that is the common one, then I would assume lengths of stay would be relatively short because people want to be reunited with their animals.
Council President.
Yep. Monica.
It looks like, so from reading some of the law, it looks like, and also some of the information that the Humane Society provided, it looks like there's a 7-day or a 9-day period of time for the dogs to be redeemed, depending on whether or how notice was given. And then from that period on, then they can be eligible for adoption. And I think that, and going back to some of the comments and back to Councilman Gully too, in addition to that, just because I think we're all thinking the same thing, part of the challenge with offering a counter offer to the Humane Society is just making sure that we're straight on the numbers, right? So because the numbers are so different from, what Mara might have on record versus what they're sending to us versus what we just experienced for 2 months in January and February. You're talking 11 cases each month. So we just have to get some of those numbers straight and get organized on it, because I think that's part of the challenge right now, is that their spreadsheets are different from the original spreadsheets that we had received years ago when they did the original increase to what we are looking at now. So, but it says 7 or 9 days, Councilman Zalewski.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Council President, could I just clarify one thing?
Yes.
Mara.
Thank you, Mara. I was going to ask if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, just to comment, we do get a spreadsheet from Mohawk Hudson every month that does list every animal that has been picked up by the Troy Police or the ACO. I do not have numbers on any animal dropped off by the public, so that is where some of the confusion lies. But they do have some pets that are there for a very long time, and I think that's what's throwing the average off. So Councilmember Zalewski is correct that the majority of animals, I haven't run the numbers recently, but our last time we did the numbers, about 46% of dogs do get redeemed by their owner within the 5, 7, or 9 day period, depending kind of what the hold is. And the rest do not, but they do get adopted out in most cases. But there are a few animals, maybe they're very old, maybe they have some problem, but for whatever reason, they don't get adopted out and they do stay there for a very long time. So I think that's why the average is very different. If the owner is known, it's only a 5-day hold period. It's only in the case where if the owner is not known, if the owner is not known, it's 7 or 9 days depending on the notice, unless it's a bite case, in which there's a minimum 10-day bite hold unless a rabies certificate can be provided. And then a handful of times a year, there might be a court case that would have a dog stay there much longer, but that's just a handful of cases.
And thank you, Mara. I did receive a message from someone who I won't name, but she works at Mohawk Hudson. And, just a couple quick things. She gets, we don't want to pay for the bells and whistles. We want to be in compliance. We want to protect our residents and obviously ensure that we're abiding by the law. I did, in full disclosure, she did say one thing here, some strays stay with us a long time. So as Mara stated, she has confirmed that. And, when I called Mohawk Hudson real quick, and Kevin, and I was on the phone probably a dozen times total between the two of them, I really got the sense that Mohawk Hudson potentially, and I'm not going to speak for them, but they did open the door to a couple of council members. I offered a minority, a majority, at least meet with them via Zoom next Monday when Gail gets back. So Ashley's the CEO and Gail is her right hand. I don't know her exact title. I think it's a VP of some sort. So saying that though, obviously, if the mayor and Monica and Rick come up with a short-term solution, obviously that, we're open. I'm open here, and I just want to say, I do get the sense talking to Mohawk Hudson folks that maybe there's a little bit of tense feelings. I just want us to move forward, and I get it. These proposals are outlandish. They're incredibly outlandish. We need to figure out moving forward how to protect our taxpayers, both financially, public safety, and ensure that we're abiding by the law. So, saying
Council
that.
President?
Yep, Council Member Gully.
The mayor, since December, the mayor and the Corp Council and the deputy mayor have been negotiating on this process and working on this process. In any business deal, it's tough when you start clouding the waters. And I know that you maybe suggested that a minority and a majority member meet with these people to talk to them. But I think that could be a distraction and it could create some distortion from the negotiation if we do go in there. Because if we happen to ask or say the wrong thing, it might stop the focus of what the administration who's been working on this since December is doing. And I know that, in reality, it usually is the clerk and the council that does this. So I don't know how it was moved that way. And right now that's not part of the discussion. But I would rather think that we should just hold and let them do their job as they do it, because they're in focus, and we don't kind of broaden this negotiation process, but we stay informed that we know what's happening as we go forward, moving forward. That would be my suggestion.
And I totally respect that, Council Member Gully, but I don't know if we are negotiating with Mohawk Hudson. I'm not sure if that door has shut. Maybe, Rick, the mayor, or Monica could tell us that from Mohawk Hudson. It sounded like, they haven't been negotiating since, I don't know, for a week and a half ago. So if that door is open, if it's not, and potentially we can get something on a short-term basis, I think that that's something that we have to, as council members pursue if the mayor and Rick and Monica and the administration didn't come forward with something over the next few days. I just think it's a door that we have to leave open if the administration is not meeting with them. If they are, I don't know about it, and that's a good thing.
Council President?
Yes, Council Member Zaluski.
Councilman Gully might have wanted to still say something.
Oh, sorry, Council Member Gully.
Just a final word that in reality, I hope we can find an option, because I think what Mohawk Hudson put in front of us is a travesty with numbers. And I hate to say that, because you never want to feel that you're being pressured into a situation. But that's really what I see here, and I hope that we do work hard to find other options. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know, because I will help us move in that direction if we need to move that way.
Thank you, Councilmember Zalusky.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I was actually going to make the same comment that Councilman Gully made, which is that we probably, as council members, should not be meeting with Mohawk Hudson in the capacity of thinking that we're going to negotiate a contract. That is the administration's job. We approve or reject contracts, and we could actually put the city in a much weaker position if we start talking to them and either give up information or make them think that we were going in a direction where the city is not interested in moving. So I think we want to be careful on that. Also, I do want to mention, just point of order. You read a comment that came into the record. We should probably disclose the name of the person who made the comment, but that's
about
that's
the
at your discretion.
strays. About the strays, Marguerite Pearson, and I'm sure she doesn't mind her name being associated with the strays. How long they stay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
Monica, doesn't Mohawk Hudson rely on a lot of volunteer work there too? I mean, because I seen there was some notes of recurring payments for hourly consumption by executives, but don't they work a lot with volunteer work there? People come in and just work pro gratis.
Councilman Gully, I mean, I know from my experience down there, I've been there a number of times. They often have volunteers caring for the animals, walking and exercising them, giving them much needed socialization. They have a slew of volunteers. They even sort cans and bottles because they make over $1 million a year in bottle deposits. So they do. They have a lot of volunteers.
Council President.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to just agree with Rick on that. The volunteers are actually the lifeblood of Mohawk Hudson, and they do a ton of the heavy lifting, including even working on, my friend who volunteers there not only takes care of animals and attends all of these different events that they have and adoption events and such. He's even worked on the building. He's done construction work for them. I mean, their volunteers are really good volunteers. So again, that's less of an expense for Mohawk Hudson, of course, and makes me question just the amounts of money that we're looking at here. So.
Yeah, and just for the record, Mara, I don't know why we're getting an echo, but Marguerite Pearson is speaking as a Troy resident, not on behalf of the Mohawk Hudson.
Noted.
Thank you. Do you know
Council
why
President?
we're echoing?
I think it's coming from Tim's computer, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
I just want to just summarize this real quick, because based on some of the conversation that's going on, I'm under the assumption, based on Mayor, what you said, that Mohawk or Hudson Mohawk said that they're not going to, they didn't accept any of our offers, going back and forth. Based on what you were saying, I'm assuming you're not in negotiations at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are no active negotiations going on at this time. We'd be happy to have a conversation if the door is closed or if there are bad feelings. We didn't close the door. Be happy to talk to them.
I get that. And I wasn't being rude when I said, anxiety and anxious and whatnot. It's just trying to resolve this as quickly as possibly. And that doesn't seem to happen. And I'm just, like I said, I'm concerned with what's going to happen. God forbid we have animals that we got to take somewhere. So I'm under the assumption that there is no negotiations going on. Basically, at this point, either it's we accept their offer or we don't accept their offer. But it sounds like they made concessions with other municipalities, and we're not one of those getting concessions. So that's kind of not a good feeling.
I think that's a fair characterization.
Okay.
Council President?
I'm
Right.
sorry, 1 second. So at that,
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
so at that point, it seems like that we're going to try to find another avenue that we need to do for our animals for Troy.
Yes, we have to continue on that path. And if as a result of the past couple of days back and forth with the Humane Society, they'd like to entertain discussions with us, we're more than happy to do that. We could reach out to them again, but simultaneously, we need to be looking at another path. And we need to be thinking not just this year, but what is going to happen next year and the year after that.
Mhm.
So we need a short-term and a long-term plan is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I agree. The fees, I'm sorry, they're outrageous. You're doubling the increase, and I get it, but if they're asking every other municipality to pay the same amount, but they're not in this instance, from what I'm hearing, other municipalities are getting different rates, but Troy, it's like, no, we're gonna full amount. All right, thank you.
Council President.
Yeah, 1 second. I do think Councilmember Ash McPherson, after talking to Hudson Mohawk, or Mohawk Hudson, sorry, I'm not sure if that's totally accurate. And that's why they did open the door, not so much to negotiate, but answer questions one-on-one. I wanted them to talk to us this week, just to get some clarifications, misinformation that might be out there, which I believe is floating out there, but just to get the answers straight from them. Unfortunately, because Gail's out of town, just the timing was off. They would be happy to talk to anyone. I'm sure if you call Ashley also, she will talk to you. She's the CEO, but in terms of them trying to hose Troy, I do believe some of the other municipalities received exorbitant prices also. I'm not going to speak on their behalf because I did kind of allude to that too. Like, wait a minute, why is Troy being singled out? That was not the case. But saying that, that's why I wanted to talk to them, and get more clarification.
Council President.
Yep.
I think that might not be a bad idea, but I don't think it should be a one-on-one. If they want to come to the council and explain things, I think it should be for full transparency. They should speak to the full council.
Thank you. Duly noted. Anyone else?
Council
I'm
President.
sorry, Councilmember Gully. Yes, sorry.
Just a quick question. It just doesn't feel comfortable with the way this is being progressively brought out. So my question is was there ever an incident that we had between Mohawk and the city of Troy that would have caused them to say, these guys are not worth negotiating with, or we're not, or do you think it's just a fact that they're looking for that number to meet their budget? I'm just a little confused how they could be so stern at this unless there was some sort of incident that might have deterred their thoughts on Troy.
Councilman Gully, I'm as mystified as you are. I know of no incident. I cannot figure out their motivation. I can speculate all day long, but their numbers don't make sense. Their numbers don't make sense. In the world I live in, you kind of go back and forth, but in this case, there's been no back and forth. Albany ended up paying a 65% increase over the year over year for the contract that they did get.
How many years is that contract for? Because I'd like to steal that.
It's a 1-year contract with 2 1-year renewals. But it was a 65% increase in 1 year.
I wish I had an answer for that, but if they didn't fight it properly, I don't know. But
They did. They tried.
That's all I can say. I'm smiling on the inside. I think there's a lot of opportunity there right now.
If someone, for an entrepreneur, there is opportunity because they put out an RFP and they got one response, and that was Mohawk Hudson.
Yeah.
I've been in close communication with the Albany Corporation Counsel's office. They're as frustrated and as mystified as I am. And they've had closer contact than I have too. They still don't understand it.
Well, it is easy to hold people hostage when you own the market.
Well, that's the
Competition is
only
healthy for
explanation.
everybody.
That is the explanation that makes the most sense. It's monopoly power.
Yeah, it's definitely, I honestly, Rick, not to steal your word, mystifying just in terms of, that just the cost going up that quickly, that dramatically. I think that's the real issue here. If it maybe over a 5-year period went up incrementally, we understand. But saying all that, I'm trying to keep an open mind. I, do hope that the administration and the mayor come up with a couple alternatives, couple proposals. As I said, if there's nothing by Monday or Tuesday, Mohawk Hudson, I will offer Councilmember Ash McPherson an invitation to clarify and talk to us publicly at a future finance meeting. I'm certainly open to that. You know that. Saying that, any additional comments, questions? Mayor.
Yes, I just want to be clear that I'm not here to vilify the Humane Society, nor claiming that they're hosing us. They are pursuing a particular business plan. As far as I know, that is their prerogative. It doesn't match with what we are interested in in terms of an arm's length transaction. That's business. It's not, I don't want to condemn them or vilify them to the public. That's their decision at some level. So we need to find alternative services, whether it's this year or next year. We're not in sync with what they want to do, apparently.
Understood, Mayor. And, I think for all of us, I don't want to speak on behalf of the council, but I will go on a limb saying we love the work and the folks at the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society. Many of us know so many people and so many residents that donate services and foster animals. And I have really, really close friends who, just go above and beyond for the Humane Society. So maybe some doors will open. I'm still an optimist. I do wear my rose-colored glasses sometimes, I've been told. But, potentially, I do maybe hold a little optimism out for the Mohawk Hudson, and certainly, if we can maybe find 2 or 3 shelters. I guess real quick on that note, Councilmember Steele sent us some really good information on the Ag and Markets law. So if you look at your email, it's really helpful. Thank you, Councilmember Steele. Talks about municipalities, their obligations, and the mandate, and the animal control officer. Extensive conversations with Kevin. He certainly, one of the options I noticed in the law said that you could find a residence, and he has already gone on record to state his residence is not open as a shelter, saying that some folks have actually brought a stray to his house. So, this certainly has to be addressed immediately. But my question to you, Rick, do you, the smaller shelters, they'll only take in, say, 1 or 2, maybe 3 dogs. Do you know what under that law? I wasn't able to read it. I did scan through real quick, Councilmember Steele. But do you know, what obligation the city is beholden to under the law in terms of how many shelters that would accommodate how many dogs for the city of Troy? I mean, there has to be some correlation, some stat that they use.
honestly do not know how many beds we have to have for dogs given our population. I'm not sure that that is stated anywhere in the law. I've read the Ag and Markets law. It's a very curious law. It says that we have to provide food, shelter, and water for stray dogs. It also says we don't have to spend any more money than we collect in license fees in a year,
Yeah.
those two items do not match. They're inconsistent.
Good.
So I don't have an answer. I did want to say two things. One is that even though we are a city and have procurement issues and, you know, we have to have contracts and things like that, in my view, in my legal opinion, we can do anything on an emergency basis that we have to do to protect public safety and the health and welfare of our citizens, as well as our stray animals. So I don't see any problem with legally with entering into short-term contracts or short-term arrangements with a number of kennels to take our overflow of dogs. The second thing I wanted to say was that as the mayor said, and as you said, this is not personality driven in any way I mean, I also admire greatly the work Mohawk Hudson does. I do not understand their position. I'm completely befuddled by it. And that's just where I am.
Yeah.
Council
Understood.
President.
Yes, Councilmember Zaluski.
I also looked at the page that Councilperson Steele sent, and you know, there's a section on dog licensing, which reminds me that, of course, dog licensing, one of the benefits of trying to get as many of our dogs licensed as possible is that we avoid, you know, having to take them to the shelter. We can get them back to their owners much more quickly. I actually have a question for our city clerk, Mara. Where do we stand with the BAS dog licensing portal?
We're in the process of setting up the financial component of it, you know, where people can pay through the website. Our comptroller, as you know, is out, so we're a little bit delayed, but once that gets set up, they said it would take perhaps another 4 weeks or so to get everything together. So it's in process, is the short answer.
Yeah, one of my big things, as everyone knows, because I obviously took up some time during our budget process on that, was to I'd really like to see us increase our dog licensing. Not only does it bring in revenues, but it does help our animal control officer, and ultimately it reduces the animals that have to be taken to whether it's a shelter or a kennel or whatever. So we'll stay on it.
Yeah, certainly, we agree.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just said we agree. Yeah, absolutely. So if everybody wants to talk it up at neighborhood meetings and stuff, make sure to, you know, promote dog licensing. We're doing the best we can to try to increase licensing. And also, you know, if people want to get their dogs microchipped as well, that's very helpful.
Mara, you can always talk to Selena if you need to move that process along while Andy's out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion? Okay, I think just moving forward, I would ask the mayor, you know, I get that you don't have a definitive timeline. You know, obviously, I'm holding you to it in terms of, you know, really actively working on this, saying that, what's the next steps that you envision, you and the administration? I'll let you speak for yourself. Thank you.
Sure. Well, it's pretty simple. We'll continue making calls, and Rick and Monica and I'll speak over the next couple of days about potentially reaching out to Mohawk Hudson again. But for the time being, we're searching out alternatives.
Okay, and I would ask, please keep the council totally in tune and keep us apprised, you know, how it's progressing, please, because we do have a finance a week from Thursday, potentially. If I need to call something prior to that for a finance and special, I'll do so. If we use that Thursday for finance and I can call special, I'll do that. I just want you to know, I would think the council is on call here and, you know, this is obviously a priority for all of us and the residents of Troy.
So when you say on call, does that mean you'll take strays?
I don't know if James would allow that, or actually James would allow it, but I don't think the animals would quite like James. He likes tugging on ears, tugging on tails and things.
They'd find their way home quick.
Yeah, maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key. He just heard me, obviously. Thank you. Thank you. So if there's no additional comments, concerns, questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilmember Zaluski. Do I have a second? Second, Councilmember Steele. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.